Week 1 of NFL free agency is officially in the books. So today I'm going to give you guys my updated list of potential offseason targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's still some needs that the black and gold need to address this offseason. We'll be going over those here in just a second. And I'm going to be going over their options in both NFL free agency. There's still some pretty darn good players still on the market. And then also some potential trade options as well for GM Omar Khan. Before we get into today's content, make sure you guys click that subscribe button because we are less than 1,000 subscribers away from hitting 50K here on the channel. We're going to be partying it up once we get to 50K. I appreciate all of the real Yinzers down there that have clicked that subscribe button already. Without you guys, we would not have this channel and the success that we have had over the last 2 years. So I want to extend my gratitude to each and every one of you. We have a daily content on the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to have a bunch of draft content coming your way, breaking news coverage every time the Steelers make a move. So if you're interested in top-notch Steelers coverage, this is the best place on YouTube to get it. Make sure you click that subscribe button. So let's go over the current team needs after kind of this first wave of free agency. It was a very busy week for the Steelers last week. Okay, you added 2 new quarterbacks. Big news there. Of course, you got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and you trade away Deontay Johnson. You bring in Van Jefferson and Patrick Queen, but you still need a center, starting center next year. You still need another cornerback, even though you added Dante Jackson in the Deontay Johnson trade. You still need another wide receiver. Van Jefferson's fine, but you definitely need somebody to go opposite of George Pickens, and you need an offensive tackle, whether to play the left or right side. It doesn't really matter. I think the Steelers would play Broderick Jones on either one. I think they're just trying to find the right fit at that position. So now let's start with the center position here, because I do think this is the most pressing need for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. And honestly, this is kind of the most dire situation because all the top centers in free agency this year have kind of been taken, and right now it's kind of down to Connor Williams and Evan Brown as the guys still on the market that had significant snaps last year that are still a fit for Arthur Smith's wide zone system. So, you got Connor Williams, who is hurt. Okay, he's dealing with that ACL tear. Okay, and the rumors are he's not going to be ready for the start of training camp or even the start of the season. So it's like, do you really want to bring him in at that point if you're not sure he's going to be playing? And then Evan Brown had a below-average Pro Football Focus grade next year. So even if you bring him in, I do think you can expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft a center. So whether or not they bring in somebody like a Connor Williams or Evan Brown, I think it's irrelevant. I think at this point, the Steelers are planning on taking a center within the first 2 days of the NFL draft. And here are the top guys when it comes to draft targets at the center position. All 5 of these guys, by the way, I think could start in the National Football League right away. Jackson Powers Johnson, obviously the number 1 option. I think he's the only center worth taking in the first round at number 20 overall. Graham Barton is a very versatile offensive lineman, can play tackle, guard, or center at a high level. I might add Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. I have a round 2 grade on him. Super powerful guy, grew up in Pennsylvania. Really good fit as well for this system. Cedric Van Pran, really athletic center out of Georgia. I would love to get in maybe in the 3rd round there. And then Bo Limmer, same thing out of Arkansas. A little bit undersized, I'd say, but he's very athletic. And he plays with really good technique. So he's number 5 on my list this year, but I wouldn't mind Bo Limmer being the pick in round 3 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now predict it for me down there in the comment section. Which center will the Steelers draft in the 2024 NFL Draft? Let me know down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So let's move on to corner here, because you do get Dante Jackson in the trade for Deontay Johnson. And he can play outside, and he's played pretty much exclusively outside throughout his career. But I also think he could play in the slot if needed. And also a little bit of news today, the Steelers have reworked Dante Jackson's contract, which is going to save them $4.5 million in cap space for 2024. So his cap hit was at like just over $10 million. Now it's at about 6.5. All right. So it's a lot less for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into next season. And I think this is actually a really good value for somebody somebody of the skill set and the scheme fit that Dante Jackson brings to the table. But you still need to fill out that third cornerback spot or even the number 2 cornerback spot. And the options on the trade market are interesting. L'Jarius Sneed might cost like a third-round pick. And I think in terms of a true value standpoint, that's something that I would consider. But with these two guys, I think that Marshawn Lattimore as well is also a really good fit for the press man-heavy system that the Steelers are going to be trying to implement. But you're probably going to have to give these guys an additional deal. And honestly, I'm not really willing to pay another corner, another defensive player, a big contract because the Steelers already have the most expensive defense in the National Football League. So what I would rather do here, if I was the Pittsburgh Steelers, I want to get younger and I want to get cheaper on the defensive side of the ball because you're already paying Watt, you're already paying Highsmith, you're already paying Cam, you're already paying Minka. All right, pretty soon Joey Porter Jr. is going to need a new contract, right? So I would rather get cheaper and younger on the defensive side of the ball here, but I don't want to sacrifice quality of play. So the way that I would probably go about it here is I would sign a veteran that's still playing at a high level, but is looking to win championships now and is going to take a discount to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Stephon Gilmore is probably the number one guy on my list, but Xavier Howard and Adoree Jackson are both guys available on the market that have played and have primarily played in press man roles in their careers. But I would rather go out and get Stephon Gilmore. He's my number one choice at this point because he had by far the highest grade out of those 3 corners last year. I believe it was in the mid-70s in terms of Pro Football Focus grading last year, and that was in a system there in Dallas where they play pretty much exclusively man coverage. So he still has the legs, he still has the coverage ability, he still has the instincts, and he still has the ball skills. He absolutely shut down A.J. Brown in Week 14 last year. A.J. Brown is a handful, and Stephon Gilmore did about as good as anyone could expect from a corner there. He's also looking to win championships at this point in his career. The Steelers, I think, fit that mold, especially if he believes in Russell Wilson. And then because of that, and then also because of his age and experience, I think he'd be a great mentor for the young cornerbacks in this room, like Joey Porter Jr., like Corey Trice Jr., like Darius Rush, that are all looking to establish themselves in the National Football League. But I'd also like to draft a center, right? Or a corner, I should say. So you have Stephon Gilmore on a 1-year, like $7 or $8 million contract, right? Then you get like a Renardo Green out of Florida State in the middle rounds. Bring somebody like that in who's a great scheme fit. You don't necessarily have to push him as a starter right away. He can learn from Stephon Gilmore, but in the long run, he can be the number 2 option, the Joey Porter Jr., and you get cheaper and younger on the defensive side of the ball. Now, coming up here, we're going to be talking some wide receivers, man. It's the biggest section of this video because there's a lot of good options at the wide receiver position, lots of interesting possibilities, so make sure you guys stick around. But first, all right, it's a new era of Pittsburgh Steelers football with Russell Wilson coming to the Steel City. You can get his jersey from our friends at Fanatics right now when you go to chatsports.com/Russ. All right, so his jersey's available, number 3. It's going to be awesome. I think that he's going to have a really nice stretch of years here in Pittsburgh, and I think he's going to get the Steelers back in the Super Bowl contention, and who knows, man, he might even be lifting the Steelers' 7th Lombardi trophy in his time here in Pittsburgh. So if you want to make that investment right now, go to chatsports.com/Russ. I will say these things are selling like hotcakes, so to make sure you get yours in your size today, make sure you go to chatsports.com/Russ before they all run out. Now, let's go over wide receiver here because it's very intriguing to me how many options the Steelers still have at their disposal. So now, the latest rumor and the latest buzz is that Mike Williams is going to be visiting the Steelers later this week. He's going to be meeting with a bunch of different teams, and his last stop is going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this is a very interesting fit, okay, when it comes to talent and scheme and quarterback here because Mike Williams is big, he is athletic, and he is a really good contested ball winner when he is healthy, all right? So if you bring him in, he is a great number 2 option to George Pickens in Arthur Smith's offense. He's a good run blocker, so that's something Artie is going to really like, and then Russell Wilson is going to love the 50-50 ball ability and the athleticism down the field. When Mike Williams is on the field, he's actually a really nice weapon to have. The only thing is, he has a tough time staying healthy. Pretty much missed the entire season last year with a major injury. He's never really finished a season, full 17-game stretch without having an injury. So there's definitely some things that Mike Williams comes with a little bit of risk, all right? Because if he's on your team, you know that you're running the risk of the injury stuff. And at this point, guys, the reason why I would consider bringing in Mike Williams is because he might want to come to a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who has a stacked roster, who has a quarterback that fits his skill set, because he wants to win a title. He hasn't done that so far in his career. He's getting up there in age, 29, and with those injuries, he probably knows that his timeline here and his ability to play at a high level is probably running out a little bit here. So I do think that Mike Williams is going to think about coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if he's not signed by the time that he gets to Pittsburgh for his visit, I think there's a pretty decent chance he ends up getting signed. But there are other options out there on the free agency market to consider. I really like Josh Reynolds. I think he's really versatile. He's younger. He has less of an injury history, and he can play inside and outside. And he's a good run blocker as well. He had to do that quite a bit there in Detroit last season. Tyler Boyd is still an option, although I think Boyd is probably a little bit less likely now than it was last week. Michael Thomas from the Saints, kind of a bigger slot, kind of fits the mold of what the Steelers are looking for in that slot receiver role. Corey Davis, I think he kind of stinks, now, but he has that connection with Arthur Smith, so you have to mention his name. And then Odell Beckham Jr., not necessarily sure he's a fit for the offense, but he is boys with Russell Wilson, so that's a name to keep an eye on as well. So personally, guys, I really like Josh Reynolds. I think that he would be the guy that I would personally sign in free agency. He'd probably be a cheap option that brings versatility, brings a little bit of youth. I think he's one of the more underrated receivers in the National Football League because of all the stuff that he can do. Super tough guy, catches balls over the middle of the field. I think Josh Reynolds would be an excellent signing for the Steelers, and I think it'd probably be a pretty affordable option as well. Plus, it keeps your options open in the NFL draft. So another option that you could have here, outside of signing a wide receiver, is to trade for one. Now, I'd probably rather go out and get a free agent personally, but there are some rumors kind of going around about the Steelers trading for a big-name wide receiver. And although I'm not necessarily against that, there's definitely some crazy rumors being thrown out there, like Justin Jefferson from ESPN, AB's company or quote-unquote company, saying Justin Jefferson being linked to the Steelers. That's not going to happen. No way the Steelers are paying him $35 million a year with their cap situation. Stephon Diggs, I don't think he's a fit for Arthur Smith's offense, so even if he does want out of Buffalo this offseason, which is possible, I don't think it'd be to the Steelers. A.J. Brown, it seems like he is happy in Philly, at least for now, so I don't think he gets traded, even though I think the Steelers would love to trade for Brown. And then Debo has been linked to the Steelers in recent days, but I think the asking price from San Francisco's end is just going to be too high. Now, how about we talk about somebody that I think is actually a legitimate possibility, and that's Courtland Sutton, Russell Wilson's number one receiving target there with the Denver Broncos, and he's reportedly available for a trade. Now, the Broncos have said that, after they released Jerry Jeudy or traded Jerry Jeudy to the Browns, that they're not getting rid of Courtland Sutton. And, you look at the numbers from last year, and you can kind of see why. He was definitely Russ's number one target, 10 touchdowns last year, a pretty decent season for Sutton, probably nothing amazing, anything that's going to be wow, the Steelers absolutely need to go get this guy, but he's very, very close with Russ. He's one of his best friends, and he's a great fit for Arthur Smith's offense. He's a big guy, good run blocker, good effort in terms of run blocking as well. You're not going to have to worry about Courtland Sutton in the run game. We know that he has a good connection with Russell Wilson, particularly on the deep ball. Now, the one thing that kind of has me shooken up here about Courtland Sutton and trading for him is the cap hit. You will have to take on $13 million in a cap hit for 2024 if traded. So that definitely limits your options here if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. And his contract here still has 2 years left, and it's about $13 million per season. All right, so it kicks in a little bit more in 2025, his final year of his deal in terms of the base salary. But is Courtland Sutton worth this kind of money? I mean, you can make an argument, yes, but it also limits your options as to the other positions and how to address the rest of your needs in free agency. So what I would do at this position, guys, it might not be the sexy move, it might not be the big splash trade, that we know Omar Khan likes to do, but I would sign Josh Reynolds, all right, because he's very solid. He's versatile. He's not going to want too much money, and I think he fits what the Pittsburgh Steelers need right now, and it also allows you to draft one of the top wide receivers in the 2024 NFL Draft, whether that be in round 1, whether that be in round 2, whether that even be early round 3. All right, Roma Dunze is somebody that would be an excellent fit. Now, you'd have to trade up for him. I'm not sure if that's a realistic possibility for the Steelers, especially if they don't make many more moves in free agency, but he's certainly somebody that they would love to add to this offense. Brian Thomas Jr. is somebody I think would be an excellent fit in this system. Big guy, can really go down the field, separates really well to the deep portion of the field. He could be a big play machine for the Steelers. Same thing with Adonai Mitchell out of Texas, Coops guy, really good route runner, big guy, fast. I like everything about Mitchell's game. And then in the round 2, I really like Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. Big guy, reminds me of A.J. Brown, and we know how Brown played in Arthur Smith's offense in Tennessee. And then another Coop guy here, Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, kind of a dog, great route runner, great run blocker from the slot as well. I think he'd be a good fit with the Steelers if he falls to round 2. So let me know down there in the comments section, which wide receivers do you want the Steelers to add this offseason? Let me know down there in the comments section what you're feeling about this very important position. So now let's go to offensive tackle here. Because obviously you don't want to go with Dan Moore again next year, in my opinion, all right? And there's still some decent options in free agency for you to choose from. Trent Brown, Charles Leno Jr., I think that PFF grade might be a little bit higher than how he actually played last year. Not really good against high-level talent, Charles Leno Jr., but he's a decent swing tackle. David Bakhtiari, somebody that's been really ravaged by injuries throughout his career, could be an option as well. When he's in, he's really good. And then Donovan Smith won a Super Bowl last year with the Kansas City Chiefs with that Pro Football Focus grade. Isn't all that good, personally, so out of these 4 options that are still available, Trent Brown is the guy that I would go with. He was a top 10 graded left tackle in football last year. And, the reason why he hasn't been signed is probably because of some of the behavior issues that he's had in the past. But Mike Tomlin's the type of guy that traditionally kind of looks past those behavior issues and says, you know what, I can corral that guy. I can fix him. And, you can make an argument whether or not that's a smart decision for the Steelers. But I think with this position and center needing to get addressed, and you have a developing young tackle on the other side of the offensive line, I think it makes sense to go out and get Trent Brown in free agency, especially because I think you can get him at a discount at this point in the process. Now, before I go, I do want to talk about safety depth because, yes, you signed Deshaun Elliott, but you probably need to add, you probably could add another safety, especially if you cut DeMonte KZ. We'll get to that in a second, but there's still some really good safeties available for the Steelers to get here. Justin Simmons is still out there, and apparently the Steelers are interested in his services, so keep your eye out for Justin Simmons. Eddie Jackson, I think, would be a really good replacement for DeMonte KZ. I still think he's got better wheels than KZ at this point in his career. Isaiah Simmons would be an interesting kind of versatile chess piece at the vet minimum that you should keep your eye on. I think that'd be a good fit. Patrick Peterson has said that he would love to come back to the Steelers and kind of be like that third safety option. And then same thing with Terrell Edmonds. We know he works in this defensive structure, and you can probably get him for the vet minimum. So when it comes to the safety position, man, if Omar Khan can pull off landing Justin Simmons for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, that would be just the next move in Omar Khan's regimen here this offseason. That would just be unfreaking believable. And the safety room for the Pittsburgh Steelers and that 3 safety package that Mike Tomlin could deploy would be straight up lethal. You take a look at what they'd be working with. You got Minkah Fitzpatrick, arguably the best safety in football, along with Justin Simmons, a 4-time All-Pro, is the number 2. And then you got Deshaun Elliott, somebody that can play in the slot, somebody that can play hybrid linebacker safety, somebody that can play free safety if you need him to. I mean, the amount of possibilities and disguises that you can run with this trio of safeties, I mean, it's just straight up lethal. It's dangerous, and I think that if you can get Simmons for the right price, they should pull that trigger, especially because DeMonte KZ, he lost his legs last year towards the end of the season, man. His speed just kind of left him, and because of that, I would rather cut him and bring in a different safety to take his role. You save $3 million for 2024 if you release him. So will they do it? I don't know. He's a good locker room guy. The Steelers tend to like him, so it's definitely possible KZ sticks around. and the Steelers don't sign a safety. But personally, I'd rather replace his role in this defense with a guy like Eddie Jackson or Justin Simmons. Now, what's next? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which free agent should the Steelers sign next? Do you want like a Josh Reynolds? Do you want a Mike Williams? Do you want Tyler Boyd? Do you want, I don't know, Trent Brown? Let me know down there in the comments section which free agent you want the Steelers to sign next. That'll be it for today's show, guys. I know it was a little bit of a longer one today, but I appreciate all of your support and for sticking with me today. Make sure you click that subscribe button because tomorrow I got my latest Steelers mock draft. You're not going to want to miss that, so make sure you click that subscribe button right now for the latest Steelers news and rumors coverage right here on YouTube.